So why is Subnautica the most immersive game? Well, in today's video, I aim to, pose that question to you and find it out. So let's just get straight into it. There's no point rambling on. Subnautica is an action-packed adventure survival game developed and published by Unknown Worlds Entertainment. It tells the story of Riley Robinson, the only survivor of a spaceship crash on an alien ocean planet, which is 4546b. You are free to explore this, and the main goals of the game are to find essential resources, survive the local flora and fauna, and find a way to escape, as after all, you probably don't want to be on there forever. Subnautica was released in early access for Windows in December 2014 and macOS in 2015, Xbox One in May 2016. The game was released out of early access in January 2018 for macOS and Windows, with versions for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in December of the same year. Now, by many, Subnautica is valued for being the most immersive game out there, and especially with the VR version, this definitely seems to be the case. Now, let's get into the design. The game centers itself around ocean exploration, with you crash landing on a planet, obviously 4546b, after the Aurora, which is a bigger carrier ship, crash landed on the same planet as you. Obviously, you have to escape that in your life pods. The high quality graphics and mysterious nature of the map, with a seemingly endless one at 2, make for a great opening. You start familiarizing yourself with the landscape and its creatures, such as the Peeper and the Garryfish. Always loved that name. Anyone else? The Safe Shallows is only a taster of the game's biome though, and obviously it's relatively peaceful and relatively shallow. It is in the name. Apart from the Aurora exploding, of course, but that is more of a spectacle in terms of the visuals, but it does play a part in the story later on. The kelp forest is nearby too, and you encounter your first threats here, such as the Stalker, which later will be useful for crafting enameled glass, great for some vehicles. You'll keep collecting resources such as titanium, copper, silver, and acid mushrooms. And more at this stage, you'll be working towards a sea glide. We'll talk about how blueprints work as well now, because I think it's quite relevant. Essentially, you'll get something called the scanner, and then that allows you to scan fragments of broken things, and that will allow you to get the blueprints for you to actually make stuff. And the Sea Glide is one of those where you'll need to get the blueprint scanned, but it goes for a lot of things out there, especially with vehicles and vehicle parts as well. You're going to need all of those. Now, the Sea Glide is just a means of better transportation, and this is going to be useful in the early stages of the game just to make you get around, as the Ultra Glide fins can't do anything, and with you constantly getting radio messages coming from survivors, although none survive, you'll be wanting to go out to them and actually, see if any of them are around and gain any loot or blueprints that you can get from their abandoned capsules. In my opinion, this makes the whole experience just feel more real, as you wonder, are you really just all alone out here? And what's even out here in the first place? There's a lot of alien works in this game too, and as you progress further, you'll interact with alien buildings, looking into their history and possibly a way to get off this planet, as there is sort of the game's main goal after all. There's some pretty disturbing stuff though, with torn remains of creatures and a seeming struggle from the aliens finding a cure to the disease known as the Car. This is a main focus of the game, as you can't deactivate the massive alien cannon, which obviously you can find on one of the game's islands, without being cured from the disease. And there's no way you can get off if this thing is simply going to shoot you down, like it shoots the sunbeam down when they try and rescue you. Sorry spoilers, but the game has been out for a fair few years these days. You'll find more of these buildings as you progress, with some being in the Lost River and lava zones, which are very, very deep below the surface and spectacles in their own right. You'll keep going through these with alien tablets, which just allow you to interface and interact with any doors that you may need to get to, until you reach the final structure containing the Sea Emperor, which you'll need to help. You'll do this by allowing her babies to hatch, which you need some kind of, I can't remember what it's called, it's some sort of enzyme you have to craft, and then from all those resources, and then from once you've crafted it, you'll be able to allow the babies to hatch. Then in return, she'll kill you from the disease, allowing you to deactivate the alien cannon and finally leave the planet. Now that we've had a brief summary of the game's story, I want to talk about Subnautica's vehicles. Now, these range from the Seamoth all the way to the Prawn Suit and the Cyclops. And on base Subnautica, no mods, not including Below Zero, as this video is not about it, they are the only vehicles which you'll be able to have. The Seamoth is sort of your little submarine where you'll be able to traverse the game's map a lot faster and a lot easier. It does have some depth modules along with it as well, so you can get down to the Lost River with a Seamoth. Then obviously the Cyclops is sort of the bigger brother, and that can go even deeper. It's a lot harder to maneuver and can in times be a lot less practical, but it is necessary to get down to those deeper locations. And you can set up farms on it as well, so you can have infinite water and infinite food, so you can go out on really long adventures with something like a Cyclops. Not to mention there's a bay inside it as well, so you can put your Seamoth or Prawn Suit up there as well and keep them all contained in one package. The Prawn Suit can go the deepest of the three vehicles though, and it's sort of like a mech, if you will, where you can equip loads of attachments to it. This is useful for gathering loads of resources. You will simply need the drill attachment of the Prawn Suit to be able to gather some resources, especially when you get lower down, and obviously they can jump around quite nicely too. Although you're probably not going to be traversing the open ocean with a Prawn Suit, it will be biomes like the Lost River and the Lava Biome, as there is a lot of things around to allow you to further get up, as you do want to get back up to the surface at some point. You'll find a lot of the blueprints to these vehicles though in the Aurora, such as the Prawn Bay and the Seamoth Bay. It's pretty obvious though, as you know, they are named after the vehicles. The rocket blueprints are also found here, and obviously the Neptune rocket, I think it's called, is necessary for the game's completion. You'll need to stop the radiation leak in the Aurora as well. You can also only get there with a radiation suit, that is what it's there for after all, and these vehicles will be vital for your progress though, especially with the depth modules like I talked about, as when getting down to the Lost River and Lava Biome, don't even try traversing those large areas without any kind of depth module, because frankly your vehicle's going to crash. I don't even know how you get down there without one of those. And also don't try going down there without a vehicle as well, as you'll drown, burn, or simply be killed by a Leviathan. That ties quite nicely to the next point.
Warning. The following content may contain sudden and intense scenes that could be sensitive to some viewers. Viewers' discretion is advised. Recommended to mature audiences only, or watch with a parent or guardian if you are under 18. Proceed with caution.
Now, there's no doubt about it. Leviathans are scary. They are also just so massive, and you can see plenty of videos of people just absolutely screaming over Leviathans. Here's an example of one here.
How long is this ship? Shake. Oh my gosh! Oh my god!
Yeah, pretty scary stuff. These add a huge element of deterrence to the game and keep you constantly on your toes, especially when in vehicles, as a Reaper can literally eat your Seamoth, and the Ghost Leviathan proves fatal to the Cyclops, not to mention the Sea Dragon also just being a nuisance down in Lava Biome. The biome simply wouldn't be the same without these creatures, and so would the immersion. It adds a lot, especially with biomes like, you know, the mountains near the edge, and then you get into like those really deep areas and you just get into the general abyss, the void, whatever you want to call it. These Leviathans are going to be some of the scariest stuff if you're in a dark room with headphones on and in VR. Even when you're not in VR, you're going to be absolutely freaking out with the sounds that these creatures create and the sheer size of them comparative to them, and it really does keep you in your place on this island, which I find that some other games maybe struggle with a little bit, as Subnautica always keeps you in a state where you don't feel like you have all the power and you can just go around and destroy everything at your own will, and that is fun, but it does get boring after a while. Subnautica, however, does not allow you to do that. Now, getting into biomes, the Lost River is a truly freaky place with green, toxic, whatever that is, and ghost leviathans with the remains of much larger creatures dotted around. It's also incredibly deep, so depth modules will obviously very much be needed here. The same goes for the lava biome. The game isn't just underwater though, with 2 islands being present on Subnautica's map. I did talk about one earlier with the alien cannon that is on one of the islands. Although these moments aren't very frequent, it really does shake up the game in some way and offers, you know, maybe something a little bit more diverse in your experience, and it makes it more immersive due to the variation where you can go around and explore, find some loot, maybe even climb some things on land rather than just in water. The general reefs as well, and biomes with exclusive creatures, there'll be a few on the screen just rolling now, make the map feel so full. And in my opinion, you'll just never run out of things to do with so many biomes, with the safe shallows, the kelp forest, and all the creatures that you'll find within it, especially when you get whatever those 3-legged creatures are called. And you know, you've got blood kelp and all of that. The Lost River is truly an amazing biome, and I've spent so much time there. The biomes and biome variation really adds a lot to the greatness of this game's experiences. Now, when it comes to scavenging, you've got all of the wrecks that have broken off of the Aurora, and also maybe some previous civilization there, which you'll look into with some of the explorers. And this adds a lot of freedom to the game, as you can explore these at your own risk and at your own pace, of course. And for some things, you'll simply need to go to these wrecks, and with sort of random spawn locations, or at least varied ones of some things, you're really going to enjoy scavenging every single time, as not everything is going to be in the same place each time. And some games are obviously built in a way where everything is always going to be in the same place, and that is totally fine. But Subnautica diversifies this with things spawning in different locations on every playthrough. It's a really replayable game, and the wrecks are something which I can definitely attribute to that. It makes the game feel a lot more real as well, with just, you know, all of the backstory behind why the wrecks are here. You understand why everything is where it is and what everything is as well in terms of these wrecks, and you're always going to go down and be picky and just try and get as much loot as you possibly can before probably returning to the surface, as a lot of my wrecking does tend to happen in the earlier stages of the game, and you know, a vehicle is not going to be able to be used here as there are a lot of tight spaces, so you're going to have to watch out for your breath. And obviously with breath, hunger and all of that, it's going to add some immersion to the game too, and that is a general fact of survival games overall, is you'll need to fend for yourself, keeping yourself constantly hydrated and fed, while also keeping an eye on your oxygen too. And it really matters for Subnautica, especially considering as you go deeper, you know, essentially your breath will drop faster as you go deeper down. It becomes less efficient. So if you're not already on my side, I'm just going to give you a brief summary because we are nearing the end of the video. Subnautica, in my opinion, is the most immersive game ever. Well, the game is just so full of biomes such as the Lost River, the lava biome, the safe shallows, the kelp forest, blood kelp forest, and so many creatures like the Leviathans. Go back to the Garryfish because that thing is great. Hoverfish as well, and all of that. There's even like those crab things that kill you as well. You're simply never going to get bored. The story is very well written and keeps you constantly in mystery, but the perfect amount of mystery, not one, you know, you don't know what's going on at all, but when you have maybe a rough idea but you don't have the full picture. And with the looming threat of dying from the disease, you really do work your hardest to stay alive, on top of obviously fending for yourself with water and food, etc. Leviathans always will make you feel powerless and keep you in fear, making it a truly scary experience, especially if you're in VR. It really does level up the game. If you've never played Subnautica in VR before and you have a VR headset, and Subnautica of course, then really I do recommend you try it. With the great building options and vehicles too, so much can be achieved in a short space of time. But not too much, it keeps it at the right amount of progress in my opinion. The customization options still allow you to have moments without tension though, which is extremely important, as if you're constantly, you know, in tension, you're going to struggle getting through the game and it's going to feel extremely tiring. You can mess around with the colors of your latest creations though, making maybe a prawn suit that is the color of a prawn, or you know, you could be a lot more inventive than that. The game is also full of collectibles and things to get, such as alien eggs and of course the cuttlefish. It is so cute and also quite a rarity and quite the sense of achievement. If you're a Subnautica player and you go to cuttlefish, anyone else that plays Subnautica with you will very much be proud of you for that achievement. You'll never get bored of Subnautica as it's so well done, and there's always another thing which you can do, which is why it's truly a masterpiece in my opinion. And the Steam reviews really don't lie, with an overwhelmingly positive overall rating. Subnautica is truly and definitively, in my opinion, the most immersive game out there, and it is great fun for all. Well, anyway, that does mark the end of today's video, but wait, do not click off yet, as there will be some Subnautica 2 content coming whenever that game releases. I can't wait for the game. And also, I want to quickly promote my Patreon, as you have just listened to me basically ramble for 15 minutes straight, and I think you would be a good candidate. On the Patreon, videos come out a week early at least, depending on what tier you get. It could be even more, or on some of the lower ones it is slightly less, 24 hours. On the 2 highest tiers as well, there is a 7-day free trial, so if you don't like the Patreon, then you can always quit, and you can always just try it for those 7 days, as I think you're really gonna love it. And that free trial period is just to give you a taster of what the Patreon has to offer. I've already got a fair few members on there at the moment, considering my channel size, and I can't wait for you to be the next, as I think you're really going to enjoy it. As always, links are in the description. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and again, the new style of content, and I will see you all later.